event today for the Maternal Awareness Month series. And today we are discussing Dads We See You Too. And today we have Lamar Henderson from the Old Dads Matter in Merced County, and also William Lattimore from the Mary Magdalene in San Joaquin County. And so I wanted to start off with William today, and if you could provide us a glimpse of what your program entitles as far as supporting dads and maternal paternal depression and anxiety, and what does that look like overall in general?
First of all, the name of the program is called Passport to Fatherhood, and we're actually getting started, and our theme is love, safety, and security. And some of the fathers' workshop is as we get into case management, dealing with their emergency issues they may have, some of the needs that they may arise. We do personalized counseling, but again, we're actually getting started, and we're actually working with the 24/7 DADS curriculum, which is not a bad curriculum at all. And because Mr. Henderson is so astute when it comes to dealing with the fathers, I wanted to just simply talk about what it means to be a man, because some of our young people that's coming into the programs that I've been working with, does not even understand, even though they're a father, they don't even understand how to be a man itself, that transition from childhood into adulthood. And when we talk about adulthood, getting them to understand that adulthood is a lifelong journey. It is taught, something that is taught, something that you have to go through. It's not because you turn 18 years old and like, poof, I'm a man today. It doesn't work that way. So you have to start teaching your young ones somewhere around about the age of 10, 12 years old, 13 years old, and start teaching them what it means to be responsible as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, so on and so on. Same thing on the side of women, teaching little girls how to become a woman. It's just not poof. What's that saying? To puff the magic dragon? It doesn't just come out of thin air. So one of the things I want to say is that the job of a man, the myth of manhood that some of the boys I've been working with has gone through, coming out of prison, jail, and some of the high schools I've been in. The myth of manhood in the streets. This is the street terminology. So this is not Williams terminology, and this is not how manhood is, but this is a street terminology of manhood. Number one, if you want to be a man, you want to look like a man and walk like a man and talk like a man and act like a man, you have to be violent. At least violent enough to self-defend, that you don't let somebody walk up on you and take you from your jump chain and take anything they want from you. As a matter of fact, they say the more violent you are in the streets, the more man you are. Number two, if you want to be a man in the streets, you got to have money in your pocket, and it does not matter where the money comes from. Understand that. So as a child, you can steal it from your mom, take $5 out the purse and that kind of stuff. As you get older, you might steal cars, sell the cars and chop them up, get your money that way. You might sell drugs. You might join a gang and anything of that nature. That is how you get your hustle on, how you get your money on, as long as you have money. As a matter of fact, they say the more money you have, the more man you are. Number three, if you want to be a man, you want to look like a man and walk like a man and talk like a man and act like a man and smell like a man, then you have to have sex. And it doesn't matter if you have a baby or two or not, as long as you've been sexing them up in the neighborhood. That's why some of the ladies on the Zoom call here, you may have experienced a grown man who says he had sex with you. In fact, he did not have sex with you. That's a professional teenager. That's not a man. And last but not least, if you want your PhD in manhood, you have to go to jail, survive that experience, and come home to the neighborhood, and they will give you your PhD in manhood. So that is the street terminology of manhood. So we try to turn that stuff around and tell them what the real job of a man is, and it's this. One, you must protect, provide, produce, prepare, and secure. That is your job. The job of a woman, she must protect, provide, produce, nurture, and bring peace. So when you take those and bring them together, it's a connection. Have you guys ever had two batteries and you and you can turn one around, instead of them coming together, it goes like this. That's how a lot of relationships are that way, because they don't understand the job of a woman or the full job of a man, so they don't understand themselves. And so the relationship is off, it's not connecting no more, because only every time I do this training, and by the way, the 2 trainers is a 2-hour training. Every time I do the training, they can only tell me protect and provide for men, and then for women, they only nurture. No, that's not the whole essence of it. Both men and female protect, provide, and produce. Women nurture while men prepare, and preparing is a nurturing quality. We just don't nurture the same way the women does. It just doesn't work that way. We're not built that way. But in the confines of a relationship, men must provide security and women must provide peace for men. And then as they begin to gel their relationship, it gets a little bit better. Then you can start going into what husbandry is, how to be a good husband. And then we start talking about what it means to be a father, to work on those issues of that nature. So that's basically, because manhood and womanhood is a social function. We have to start working with each other, help each other, and build each other. What I didn't want to go through in this one is going to the fatherhood stuff, because Mr. Henderson is going to teach me some things about being a father, that kind of stuff. So is there any comments or questions? Because I really wanted to have him get through that real quick, and then let Mr. Henderson take it from here. But is there any comments or questions on that analogy of the job of a man or the myth of manhood?
I think from me, Will, one of the questions that I kind of had was kind of just, what are some ways or maybe some tips to unlearn the unhealthy lessons, or to unlearn those street expectations, and to kind of give a more healthy and a more realistic approach to what it is to be a father and what it means to be a father. So what are some healthy ways to maybe unlearn that, or to become secure with yourself to be able to unlearn that?
Just to start working on self is number one. Who are you? Where you coming from? Where you trying to go? What is your goals in life? We do a lot of workshops on talking about self-mastery. We can talk about the 5 hindrances of self-mastery, which is sensual desire, ill will, dullness and heaviness, restlessness, and doubt. Those, once you fall in those categories, it's hard to come out of that. So we get on to talk about self-esteem, we talk about discipline, and get them focused on who they are, what they're trying to go through, what they want to do in life, how they want to succeed in life, and work on their positive attributes as opposed to dealing with their negative. At the same time, giving them examples of what to do and what not to do. So they began to work through it, because everything is hands-on with boys, and everything is hands-on with men sometimes.
Yes, I agree. That positive reinforcement definitely helps, supplement creating those positive behaviors.
Yes.
Thank you, Will.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay,
I appreciate that, Mr. Lattimore, because it's what I appreciate the most is that those young men have men in the room with them. That mentorship, that ability to be in a space with other men and feel the nurturing support and guidance of other men is critically important. We can talk about it all day, but if they can see it and live it, then that's something totally different. That's where the real impact occurs. Because if not, we'll leave them in a position where the only role models that they have are those that are perpetrating the behaviors that you so eloquently shared earlier, which is very unhealthy and are tearing down our communities and families.
Correct.
So thank you so much for sharing that.
And they learn that, they don't learn it when they become adults. They actually learn it in elementary school.
They're watching.
Yeah, they're watching everybody. And keep in mind, the brain does not invent anything. It duplicates what it sees. That's all it does. So if somebody's running around with his pants sack and he has to be an older guy, but you got a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old watching him, he's going to want to mimic the same way because he think that's what he's supposed to do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Henderson, would you like to start and introduce your program with All Dads Matter? And I know that you wanted to provide more detailed information.
Sure. My name is Lamar Henderson. I am the program supervisor for Merced County Human Services Agency's Fatherhood, titled All Dads Matter. We offer encouragement, support, and education to the fathers and families of our community of how important it is to have a healthy, involved, and safe father to not only our children and families, but our community and society as a whole. We accomplish that goal by offering several different programs that meet a father's needs at the different developmental stages of their children's life. We have a program for expecting fathers. We have resource centers. And right now what I'll do is I'll go through this PowerPoint, which will give you a glimpse into some of the services that we offer. I want to start by letting everybody know that All Dads Matter is open to the entire public. You need not be an HSA client to access our services. All of our services are absolutely free, and most of our staff are bilingual. All have been trained in trauma-informed care. Okay, so this is our logo right here, the All Dads Matter Fatherhood Program. Next slide, please. Our mission is to ensure every child a competent, loving, and involved father from birth. Next slide, please. This is a picture of our resource center, the All Dads Matter Resource Center. It's located at 3376 North Highway 59, Suite D in Merced. As you see, it's very aesthetically pleasing. One of the things that I love about our resource center is that it's located off campus. So it's its own separate entity, because when you're talking about human services, most people still see that under the stigma of welfare. And for men, it's very challenging to go to a location that they consider might be the welfare. For mothers or young women or women who go to the Human Services Agency, it may be perceived that, you know, they're going there to get some support or getting some education or some job skills. For a lot of time when men go to what they quote the welfare office, it's an indicator that something must be wrong, right? What's going on? Why do you need to be there? Do you not have a job? What's going on with you? You know, and we understand how important that is in delivering that message of esteem to men. So that's why I completely appreciate and applaud our county for recognizing that fact and providing us with a very, very robust and very nice location off campus. Next slide, please. Within our resource center, we offer a variety of workshops, classes, and support groups. What you're seeing now are video from our boot camp for New Dad workshop, a workshop for first-time or expectant fathers. As you see the room, there's no one in the room but dads and babies. Okay, and I'm going to share a little bit more with you about the boot camp for New Dad workshop next. Next slide, please. So boot camp for new dads is a 1-day, 3-hour workshop for first-time or expectant dads. What we do is we bring guys in who are expecting babies in the next 90 days or so. We bring them in with veteran dads. And a veteran dad is a dad that has completed the boot camp for new dad workshop that has a baby that's 0 to 6 months. Of course, before COVID, you bring the baby in with the dad and we go over a variety of different topics that are very important to being a father, expectant dad, a father for the first time, or even expecting a new baby. We start the workshop off with a very profound question. The first question we ask is, give me words to describe your dad. And we have a large piece of Post-it paper. And you know, it's interesting, every time we ask that question, the room gets really quiet because rarely is there an opportunity where someone asks you, give me words to describe your dad in a safe space like this. If we would say, give me words to describe your mom, of course they'd have everything to say. Loving, nurturing, she's a great cook, smart, you know, lots of things, but rarely do we take a time and take a moment to really think about our relationship and the impact that our fathers have on us. So when I ask that question, eventually the guys start chiming up and you'll hear, you know, hard worker, disciplinarian, teacher, you know, strict, quiet, just a variety of different things. But in every workshop, inevitably, someone always asks, well, can I say anything? And we let them know this is a safe space for you. Absolutely, you can say whatever you want, whatever words to describe your dad. And that's when you hear things like, I don't know, I never met him, or he was a liar, or he was violent, or he was a drug addict, or alcoholic, or an inmate. But that's when they really start to unpack those feelings about their dad. And whatever they say, we put on the paper. The next question we ask is, imagine that it's 15 years from now, and now I'm talking to your child. And if I ask your child, give me words to describe your dad, what will your children say? And that's when you hear things like best dad ever, always there for me, active, funny, safe, honest, a good listener, understanding, available, accessible. And what they're really describing is the father that they always wish they had. But whatever they say, we fill the paper up with it. And then we take that paper and put it up next to the one to describe our dad. And we ask the question, notice that there are some words that we use to describe our dad that made it to the page in the way we want our children to describe us. But also notice that there are some words that we use to describe our dad that did not make it to the page in regards to how we want our children to describe us. And that creates a very important moment of insight, because where do you think we learn how to be someone's dad? And many times we learn from our own. And I don't know how many times I've had men in my office that are struggling with their relationships with themselves, that are struggling with their relationships with their children and their significant others. And I ask them, well, who taught you how to be a dad? Where'd you learn it? And many times they tell me, you know, when I was a kid, I said I was never going to be like him. But now I look in the mirror and guess who I see? You know, I see when I open my mouth, guess who I hear? So it offers an opportunity for them to really look within themselves and think about what are the supports, the changes that I need to make within my life so that in 15 years, this is what my children say about me. It also offers an opportunity to kind of give some reflection into our fathers and what was their relationship like with their dad. And how did that have an impact on how they showed up as fathers in their own lives? Because as Mr. Lattimore said, it's not from what you learn, it's what you see. You know, and how that's modeled for you. So for a lot of dads, if their father was never there or they never met them, sometimes just being there was enough. You know, you could be there and not be successful, not be accessible, but still have evolved fatherhood in your own eyes. So that's the way we start the workshop. Next slides, please. Within the workshop, we talk about a variety of different topics. One is about communication and the importance of communicating with mom. And this workshop really spends a lot of time, and I'm glad we're talking about maternal mental health, because it dedicates a lot of our time to talking about how we as dads can support mom in her new role as being a new mom. And so we talk about the importance of having reasonable expectations for a new or a first-time mom, because really most society says that just because you're a woman, as soon as that baby's born, you should know everything about that baby and exactly how to parent, how to be a mom to that baby automatically. And then because you're a dad, you should know nothing about being a dad because you're a man. But the truth of the matter is, if you're a first-time mom, if you're a first-time dad and she's a first-time mom, you start out right about the same place. So it's important to have that understanding as it relates to our expectations. I remember being a first-time dad, and one of the things that I love is that my wife allowed me to have the autonomy to be that hands-on father that I wanted to be with my baby girl from the moment she breathed oxygen for the first time. And so I was the one who took her to get all her shots, and I was the one who held her on my chest and nurtured and bonded with her. And I appreciate my wife allowing me to do that and embracing and supporting my need to nurture and be a loving father from birth. The hands-on experience is very powerful because we talk about the importance of being a hands-on dad. And what's beautiful about it, this is the part of the workshop that's the most profound. We have amazing curriculum and we're wonderful facilitators, but the biggest impactful piece of this workshop is that veteran dad there with that baby. Because in 3 hours, that 3-month-old is going to do everything that a 3-month-old is going to do. They're going to need to be fed, they're going to need to be burped, they're going to need their diaper changed, and they're going to get tired and need to be comforted and put to sleep. And they'll be crying. And it's amazing that when that baby starts crying, all the eyes go to that dad and that baby. And it's amazing to watch him go through an internal checklist, troubleshooting list of figuring out what that baby needs, meeting their needs, and then soothing that baby. And for those guys who are expecting a new baby, to see a dad in that room, watching him manage this and do this and not stress out is amazing. It's extremely impactful. And our babies, all our boot camp babies are wonderful. They read their scripts, they hit their cues, and so they do everything we need them to do within that 3 hours. But that's a really powerful time. We also have a segment in the workshop where those veteran dads with their babies show those rookie dads how to hold babies. So they'll take their own baby and knee to knee, put that baby in that rookie's hands. And it's amazing that a lot of those rookies come in very insecure and unsure of themselves. Some have said, I don't know, I've never held a baby in my life. And if my wife knew that, I'd never hold a baby in my life. But when they're in that room and that veteran dad puts that baby in their arms and makes them comfortable in the fold of their arm, and you see that baby kind of snuggle up and get comfortable, the confidence for that rookie dad goes through the roof. And you could see it happening as they start to project in a very short time, I'm going to be holding my own child just like this. And so that's a very important piece. We talk about the importance of supporting mom with postpartum. We talk about postpartum baby blues and what that might look like. We talk about postpartum depression and what that might look like. We talk about postpartum psychosis and recognizing the symptoms and supporting mom to get support with these issues. What I appreciate about our understanding of maternal health these days is that we have so much more information in regards to postpartum depression, and with the understanding that it's quite it happens quite more often than we ever thought it did in the past. And so mothers are finally getting to a place where they feel comfortable saying, yes, I'm struggling with postpartum depression, and this is what it looks like, and not feeling insecure or that they're in some way relinquishing their role as a mother because they say they need help. Because, you know, one of the things about being a parent is we're supposed to be perfect at it, right? It's funny because you have to get a license to drive a car, but you have a baby and they put it right in your hands, right? So we find we have an opportunity to talk about that with dads. One of the most impactful stories that I remember hearing from a veteran dad in boot camp, we had a dad come to workshop and he actually was having his 4th child, but he never attended a workshop like this. And when we got to the point, to the topic of postpartum depression, he got very emotional and even started crying. And I asked him, I said, what's going on? You know, what are you experiencing right now? And he said, you know, now that I'm seeing this, my wife had postpartum with our first 3 children, but I never knew what it was. So I was really hard on her. I told her she wasn't being a good mom. I told her she was being lazy. I told her that, you know, she's failing as a mother, when all it was she was going through postpartum depression. And I had no idea about what it was, so I didn't know how to help. And so, you know, just that awareness was very profound for him. And so it's just a very unique opportunity to have a conversation with expectant fathers, real conversation about what to expect about fatherhood, what to expect when it comes to bonding with your baby. We really emphasize the importance of skin-to-skin contact at birth. Put it in your birth plan, that when that baby comes out, it goes on mom's chest, and then right after, you strip your shirt off and that baby comes to you and bonds with you. We know that this works because we're in very close communication with the labor and delivery nurses at the hospital. And they tell us, we always know when we have a boot camp dad in here. I'm like, well, how do you know? Well, he's the guy stripping his shirt off in the middle of the delivery room, you know, holding that baby skin to skin. But we talk about really consenting to that bond and consenting to that intimate relationship with that child that shares your own DNA. We talk about shaken baby syndrome and the real stress of being a father for the first time, and the importance of seeking support and understanding that shaken baby syndrome is quite common, and that we want to be prepared and understand that being overwhelmed as a new dad is quite common. And the best thing that you can do for that baby is have a healthy, safe, and loving father from birth. And getting support with that is very important as it relates to preventing shaken baby syndrome. So we've been offering boot camp for new dads for nearly 20 years in our community. And so, you know, boot camp babies that were, you know, our boot camp babies 19 years ago, or what even born then, are now, young adults, 18, 19, 20 years old. And I see them around our community. And so it really is a great way to connect with our community. As I shared, our workshop is open to all fathers. I'm all expecting dads. You don't have to be an HSA client. So it's not uncommon for me to see an 18, 19-year-old veteran dad with his 6-month-old daughter coaching a 32-year-old UC Merced professor on how to bond with their baby, or how to burp a baby, or how to swaddle, and they're doing it right there in the workshop. And what that does is, it offers that opportunity for that dad to really share his wisdom with his own child, and shows that even though just because you have different socioeconomic situations or things of that nature, does not impede you from being an amazing father. If you consent to it, if you consent to the intimate relationship and are involved and involved with your baby in that way. And so it's an amazing workshop. As I said, we've been offering it for nearly 19 years. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, there you go. Every dad that attends boot camp gets their very own boot camp for new dad diaper bag. This is it right here. I noticed there's no Winnie the Pooh on there. No daisies. It's a man bag. Okay, and it comes with over $100 worth of brand new stuff for that baby. The reason this is important, because for most men, they feel like their number one duty as a father is to provide, right? But when you have those dads who may be struggling with employment for a variety of different reasons, be it issues with their criminal record in the past or underemployed, they may feel like, if I don't have the money to support this baby, maybe this baby would be better without me. Okay, but we let them know that yes, it's important to be fiscally responsible when it comes to a baby, but what that baby needs most is you. It needs you. So when that dad comes to that workshop, gains the wisdom of the topics that we talk about, gain the wisdom from that veteran dad that's there with their baby, hold that baby and leave there with that diaper bag, they leave there fully excited and enthused about being a father and can't wait to transition into that role. So that boot camp diaper bag, and I think we're the only county in the country who offers a robust diaper bag like this, is extremely important when it comes to building that bridge into being an involved father. Next slide, please. We also offer men support groups that co-facilitated by an All Dads Matter staff member and a licensed clinical social worker. And it's really just a safe space for us to come in and unpack some of the traumas that may create barriers to our relationships with ourselves, with our partners, our children. It's, as I shared, everything is free and it's open to the entire community. It's an amazing space for men to come in. And if I told you the stories or the topics that come up in the support group, you wouldn't believe me. But an amazing healing opportunity where men could come in and really address those barriers, some of those challenges, maybe some post-traumatic stress, maybe some childhood trauma that create those barriers from you being the kind of father that you really want to be, to come on in the men's group and we could support you with that. What's wonderful about men's group and having a clinical staff on board is that we can, because we have men in the room that have been there for a variety of different spans of time, you may have someone who's new to the group for the first time and someone else who may be 6 months to a year within the group, and they can share with that first time visitor, hey, I remember when I was you, and I remember going through some of the challenges and being angry, kind of the way that you're showing right now. One of the things that you asked Mr. Lattimore is, how does depression show up for a man? Well, we know that depression shows up for a man a little bit different because we live in a world under man rules, where it says that, and it's a whole lot of rules that men don't do. One of those is men don't cry, right?
Very true.
And so how do we feel comfortable as men showing or expressing our depression? A lot of times our depression shows up in anger.
Yep.
Okay. We want to sit down and cry, but we won't cry, but we will punch a hole in the wall, or we will cut somebody out, or we will be, very aggressive. And those are a lot of ways that depression shows up for men. But when we bring them in this safe environment with other men who've experienced a lot of those same symptoms, and those other men share, you know, I grew up and I would never go to a counselor or a therapist, but I've been going and it's been extremely helpful for me. It's been extremely therapeutic for me. So what we're really doing is offering men an opportunity and inviting them into a much more therapeutic and healthy way to deal with some of those challenges and barriers. And that's what our program is all about. It's really about inviting men to experience the joys of fatherhood, the joys of it. You know, many of us that grew up with fathers who one of the things they didn't do, they didn't smile a lot, or they didn't laugh a lot, or they didn't play a lot, because that was not, they didn't see that as their role. But we're introducing and inviting fathers into that experience and watching them grow, not only in their relationship with their children, but in their relationship with themselves as well. Next slide, please. These are some of the topics that we talk about in our men's support group, but it is a pure support group. So what that means is, even though we have these topics that we can talk about and curriculum around it, the subject of the day prevails in the group. So we'll start the group off with, is there anything anybody wants to talk about in group? And inevitably, all these topics come up. You know, this is what happened, how do I communicate with my children about this? This is what's happening with my issues with my significant other. How do I work this out? And so all these topics come up quite organically within a support group format. Next slide, please. Today, what it means to be a man is changing rapidly, and men are trying to find their way. And it's really about permission to be the human part of being a man, a human being. We support the human being to be the best man he can be, not falling or submitting to those man rules that create barriers and legacies of unaccessibility, be it mentally, physically, or emotionally, but from fathers to their children and families. Next slide, please. As I shared, we're trauma informed. All of our staff was trained on the ACE Overcomers curriculum, adverse childhood experiences. And we went through it as a staff, as participants, and then we went through it as facilitators. And so all of our services are very much trauma informed, because the last thing we ever want to do is re-traumatize someone who comes into our room. Thank you. Next item, please. Next slide. One slide back, please. We definitely celebrate fatherhood. And so we have our celebration of fatherhood events. This is one of our flyers from our previous years. They're held at a park. It's a free community event for the entire community, where we come in and dads can enjoy and celebrate and promote healthy fatherhood. We have a diaper derby where dads race against the clock to diaper and dress a teddy bear, pack a diaper bag, strap them into a stroller, and then run an obstacle course and pass and across the finish line. And they take it very serious. The competition is stiff. And when we've done that over the years, and it's just a great day to really celebrate and promote healthy fatherhood. As I said, it's absolutely free. We had the zoo, our city zoo is open for free that day. Kittyland, which is a small amusement park, is open for free that day. We do free family photos on the spot, so every family gets a free family photo and they get to take it home. It's a resource fair of information, of resources within our community. And it's really one of the most largely attended events within our community over the years, you know, and so it's become something that our community is really looking forward to. And we're glad to be able to bring it back after the governor opens the state on June 15th. We'll be having another celebration of fatherhood on June 19th, which is the day before Father's Day within our community. Next slide, please. These are some of our partners and communities, agencies that we partner with. They can refer dads to us, but dads self-refer a lot. Our greatest marketing tool are other dads who have gone to the program. They're our greatest marketing tool. Whenever they run into a friend or a family member that's struggling with their fatherhood experience, we have men that tell them, you need to go to All Dads Matter. Go to All Dads Matter and get that support. And we're just very grateful and very humble at the trust equity that we've been able to build within our community over the past 18 years. Next slide, please. This is our All Dads Matter car. It's interesting that, you know, when you ride it around town and you stop, it always draws people's attention. It always draws dads' attention. I always see them take a picture of it with their camera phone because it immediately sends a message that all dads matter, that all dads matter. And so that's what we want to send a message overall. So that's a brief, kind of a brief description of our programs. As I said, all of our services are bilingual. They're open to the public. You don't have to be an HSA client to access it. And we're just here to support and serve fathers to be the best father they can possibly be as they define being a great father. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Lamar. Just wanted to ask you a question, if you can give us some suggestions. I know we talked about postpartum depression on women, but we know that 1 in 10 dads also experience it. In what ways do you think, you speaking with dads, that moms can help out their partners, or questions that they can ask them? Or like you said, your wife allowed you to hold the baby and change the diaper. So what ways can moms help dads?
Thank you for asking that question, because it's so important that we have the buy-in on both ends. And immediately what comes to my mind when you ask that question is, just like we have ideas and traditional roles of a mother's role during birth, we also have ideas and traditional roles of a father's role during birth. And many times, what we find most commonly is that what couples experience is that mothers struggle with gatekeeper syndrome. And what do I mean by gatekeeper syndrome? Moms kind of feel like, I'm the one who carried this baby for 9 months. I'm the one who was in labor for 14 hours. You hold this baby when I say you can. And you do it like that, like I tell you to, or you won't do it at all. And sometimes that role of mom who wants to be so protective over that baby, that protective element can also prevent dad from building that bonding, safe and loving relationship with his own child. This can cause some real problems, you know, within a relationship, especially if they haven't been modeled healthy communication in the first place. This can bring some real issues. I never forget having a lady call me, and she had a new baby and she wanted to send her husband to boot camp. And I was like, okay, well, you know, is there anything in particular that you think he needs to learn? She's like, no. I says, well, is he helping out with the baby? Well, yes, he is. Well, is he holding the baby and bonding? Well, yeah. I'm like, okay. So what's your challenge? You know, what do you see that he needs to work on? And she says, well, sometimes when he puts the baby's diaper on, I think he does it too tight because it leaves little wrinkles in the baby's skin. I said, oh, okay. Now, granted, this gentleman, it was a volunteer firefighter and an EMT. When it came to the safety issues of the workshop, he could have taught the class, okay? The issue was that she was having these unrealistic expectations and being a gatekeeper over the father, preventing him from having that relationship with his child. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we come up against that is not only do we have man rules that men fall under, but understand that we have man rules that as a society we fall under. Correct. So moms have those expectations for men the same way men have their expectations. They want to say we should be more sensitive and loving and involved. And as soon as we do, it's like, ooh, what's up with you?
Exactly.
As soon as you get depressed or start crying or something that is showing real emotion, it's like, oh no, cut that off. That's not what I meant. You know? And so I think those unrealistic beliefs and those societal expectations on men and women can create some real barriers within that relationship, especially around postpartum baby blues for dads as we transition into being fathers for the first time, as we may struggle with the relationship that we did or did not have with our own father, and wanting to make sure we don't repeat those the legacy of bad habits with our own child. Okay.
And can I add to that? Both men and women need to understand the rules of engagement, which is respect, communication, trust, listening, and responsibility on both sides of it, as well as learning your partner's language of love. If you guys heard of the 5 languages of love, so they need to know what his or her physical touch is, the quality time, act of service, gifts and what was the last one? Words of encouragement, that kind of stuff. So they really need to have a good communication with each other back and forth. So once the baby comes involved, half the time, a lot of us don't know how to do it as men, but we would need her help to make that happen, make that change, make that transition. And sometimes she is, like Mr. Henderson said, the gatekeeper, and would keep you away, and that would make us go outside to the garage and outside in the yard and go start doing other stuff, so-called manly stuff, instead of messing around with the baby.
And a lot of that can be driven by cultural beliefs as well. You know,
Yes.
The mom and dad might feel that they want to evolve in regards to the engagement of fathers with the baby. But then you may have a mother-in-law that says, or mother and fathers-in-laws that are saying, why is that man changing a diaper?
Correct.
Right. One of the questions that come up quite often within boot camp, especially in my from our Hispanic community, our Latino community, is dads say they don't want to change their daughter's diaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Mhm.
Because they've been learned culturally, men shouldn't be changing daughter's diaper. And I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen if you're with your baby alone and her diaper needs to be changed and there's no women around? You're going to have to change that diaper.
Mhm.
Please understand, it's not sexual. It's mechanical.
Yes.
Changing a diaper.
They're going to wait 2 hours till she come home and then change.
Right. So it's really delving into and moving past some of those stereotypes and some of those cultural norms that may create barriers to their ability to really connect with their child.
Mhm.
And then you have, of course, the theos and the theas that are telling you, well, don't be doing that, and you ain't supposed to be changing diapers, and that's not your role, and that's not your job. So those things can be a barrier as well.
Agree.
The perception that you have that you want to be versus what society thinks of you and expects of you. And if you don't follow those stereotypes, then you're not a man.
There's cultural sanctions that come with
Right.
that.
And so how do we continue to break that? Right. I think that more and more our younger generations are seeing that, and they are little by little breaking those stereotypes and those barriers, and knowing that, you know what, I need to be involved in everything.
Mhm.
And so that is what's the most important thing that we as a society need to continue to embrace and to bring that awareness.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I think with all of our programs through All Dads Matter, what we're really doing is men giving other men permission to love themselves and their families like they want to love and cherish their families like they want to.
Mhm.
Just to kind of share a personal story, I had an amazing dad. I had an amazing father. You know, I love my dad dearly. He was a hardworking man. He worked for PG&E. He was a great provider. More than that, he played with us. You know, he wrestled with us. He played with us. He played hide and seek with us. You know, he was very affectionate. Well, my father passed away 25 years ago on Father's Day, very suddenly. But what I appreciate is 6 months before he passed away, I was visiting with him down in Bakersfield. All my family lives there. And it was in January, right after Christmas. And I was in the garage with my dad. Mr. Lattimore talks about the garage. That's our man club, our man cave, right? And I was talking to my dad. And by then I was a father for the first time, had been married for a few years. And my father and I was talking about, the conversation was different. It wasn't a conversation between a father and a son. It felt like a conversation between two husbands, two fathers, two men. And my father was showing me a level of respect that I wanted from him my whole life, you know? And we were just talking about it, and it was so compelling that I felt the need to share with my dad how I felt about it. And I said, Dad, I want to tell you something. He says, what is it? I'm a junior, so he called me. What is it, Jim? I said, I want to tell you how much I love you. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate you for being the kind of role model you've been to my brothers and I. I says, I know I wasn't an easy kid to raise, but you never gave up on me. And he goes, easy kid to raise. He goes, you were a wonderful kid, you know, you were a great kid. But kind of, you know, the philosophy of parenting back then was you never tell a kid what they're doing good because that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
If you're doing bad, then you're going to hear about that for the rest of your life. So I figured if I wasn't bringing the garbage cans out the curb quick enough or picking up the dog poop in the backyard, I was destined for prison. But he shared with me, yeah, you're always a really good son. And then my father shared something with me, some healing words that were so profound. And it really just kind of shaped my life as a father and doing this work moving forward. My father looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, you know what, son? He said, if I had to raise you all over again, I wish I would have held you more. His one regret of our relationship was that he wished he would have held me more.
Mm.
So I share that with you, and I share that with the fathers that I work with. You know, choose your regrets wisely. If you love someone, tell them that you love them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you need to forgive someone, forgive them. If you need to seek forgiveness for someone, apologize. But choose your regrets wisely. So
Let me give you the opposite of that. I grew up with no father, never knowing him. I grew up in a house with an alcoholic stepfather, and I was forced to learn how to drive at the age of 12 so I can go pick him up from the gas station, not the gas station, from the liquor store. So my birds and the bees talk about life came from my granddad. And we sat in the room for an hour, but he only said 3.5 minutes worth of words. So here's exactly what he said. He says, hey, son, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good, Pops. He said, school is okay? I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was actually lying to him. I was getting C's, D's, and F's. But he said, I said, okay. He said, okay. He said, you got a girlfriend? I said, no, sir. And he pulled down his pipe real fast. He leaned over and said, you do like girls, though, right?
you froze on us, Mr.
I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he puffed on his cigar, his pipe more and more. He puffed on it some more. He puffed on it some more. He looked at me and said, you're doing all right. He puffed on it some more. And then he walked out of the room and got to the door and said, tell your mama, we had this talk. Now, we were sitting in the room for an hour. And I'm still to this day trying to figure out what talk we had. So when you don't have the father figures there, you tend to go to the streets to get your fatherly information or your manhood information. So it was 10 of us that ran around in the streets and we were teaching each other about manhood, but not knowing, I didn't know until our mid-20s that my boys were lying about what was going on. So that myth of manhood kicked in again with us as kids. As we became adults, we began to change it, but it didn't really change until two men entered into my life, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Ellis. Then they started helping me with adulthood. They started helping me with fatherhood because I had my son and my daughter, what I need to do with them. If it wasn't for that, I might have went the opposite way because in our philosophy, it's birds teach birds how to fly and fish teach fish how to swim. And it's men who teach boys how to become men. And likewise for women, teach girls how to become a woman. So if you don't have the examples around you, the great fathers or that neighbor like Mr. Harris across the street from me who would pull me from the boys and say, hey, man, don't you do this and don't you do that. And I need you to stop doing what you're doing right here and go help your brother because he's a knucklehead, because he's nuts. But I want you to stay in school and do A, B, and C. That's what got me on the right path and going in the direction I should do. I didn't have the relationship with the father because he was dead. And then I didn't have a role model with one because he was an alcoholic. That kind of stuff. I was taught to clip him when he comes home drunk so mama could have the money because he would go and get a paycheck and drink up all the money. When he get drunk, clip him, take the money, and give it to moms. That's what I was taught.
So can I ask you a question, Mr. Lattimore?
Yes, sir.
How do you, and I'm assuming that you have, how does one acknowledge and then move through any resentments that you would have for your father or stepfather? Because those resentments that many times, if we don't address those and find a space of forgiveness, you know, they say resentment is like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to get sick.
Correct.
How did you find that way to, or have you forgiven your father for passing away, forgiving your stepfather for his, what we now know as an illness of alcoholism, so that you can be present and be healthy for your own children?
Through childhood or through high school, mostly, I didn't. And I was upset with everybody in the world. And then when they wouldn't let me play football because I had a heart murmur, when they wouldn't let me play football, I really was done with the world and everybody around me because I couldn't get my outlet through sports. The forgiveness came later on down the line when somebody told me this, and it was an old man who told me this. He said, I think I was 21, something like that. He said, always stay green. And he walked away, and I caught up with him saying, what does that mean? He says, always stay green, because once you become ripe, nothing left. Once an apple becomes ripe, there's nothing left for it to do but to rot. So once you get to a point where you think you know this, you think you're all that, he made me question myself, which made me go back into, I need to have a conversation with moms again about pops and my stepfather. So when I got to that piece, she asked me, have you ever forgave him about A, B, and C? And I said, no. She walked away and said, that's what you need to do. You got to forgive them. And it took me a while to do so, but I learned through meeting Mr. Johnson and his program, Rites of Passage, that you have to develop emotional mastery. Develop the emotion, find out what it is, the vocabulary of an array of emotions, identify the right emotions at the time, address the root of the emotion, the who, the what, the where, the why, and the when. Give yourself permission to feel that emotion, forgive yourself, and forgive others or the other person that you were dealing with that emotion. Create a plan to heal, act on that plan, review it, and then reward yourself. And he said his reward is stop, think, act, and reward, which is STAR. So we say STAR, say stop, think, act, and reward yourself. And I've been using that ever since I was in my early 20s.
Thank you.
I think here an overall theme is being able to be vulnerable within yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Yes.
once we are able to accept that and in all its entirety, we are able to do all those things, right? Forgive, leave that resentment, leave all those cargas, all that weight that has been placed upon us from generations, for generations, right? And being able to take a shift. Well, you know, and I think that that's the most important thing, is that once we're vulnerable with ourselves and we are able to be comfortable with it and go with and along with that journey, that we are able to, like Mr. Lattimore said, we are able to master our own emotions, right? We are able to navigate, right? So thank you for all your information and expertise.
Yes, I also wanted to say thank you to the both of you for sharing your experiences. It is beautiful to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and accepting, you know, the reality of our past and our present emotions, and even more so beautiful being able to share it in order to try to positively impact, you know, others. So emotions are real indicators of what we need. And, you know, when they're spoken about, can definitely enhance and empower ourselves, our lives, and the lives of those around us. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yes, yes. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So thank you, everybody, Facebook. We will be adding the recording to Facebook, YouTube, and other live streams. And so thank you. And thank you for sharing what dads need to know, what the rite of passage to fatherhood means, and that there's still a lot of work to get done for our men, for our young men, and for our, you know, our women as well. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating today, and have a great day.
And if I could just say, if anyone needs, you can reach us at www.alldadsmatter.com. You can also find us on Facebook, or you can reach us by phone at 209-385-7521. The number again is 209-385-7521. And we don't turn down anybody. You don't have to be in Merced County to get services from us.